video, we're going to take a look at the Logic Pro interface. In the center of the screen here, we have our Arrange window. The Arrange window is where you're going to record your audio and do the majority of your editing work, like trimming regions, copying and pasting, and constructing automation. As you can see here, the Arrange window lets me view my tracks, which are up here along the left-hand side. And it also lets me see my audio regions here, and also the waveforms within them. In the bottom right-hand corner, I have my horizontal and vertical zoom, allowing me to adjust the size of the window to my desired preferences. Over here on the right side of the screen, I have my toolbox, which allows me to access some of my convenient editing tools. For instance, I have the marquee tool, which allows me to trim an audio region. I also have a scissors tool, which allows me to sort of snip out a little piece of audio and remove it if need be. I also have a crossfade tool, which helps me connect two regions together in a sort of seamless transition. And I also have a zoom tool, which lets me zoom in on my audio waveforms. Right above the toolbox are some important tabs which allow me access to some cool functions. For instance, if I click on Media, I can access my audio files bin, which shows me all my audio files and their names, plus the sample rate and the bit depth that they were recorded at. I can also view my loops here in the loop browser. If I go to lists, I can look at all the markers that I've created, which can be helpful in the navigation aspects of my project. I can also click on notes here, which allows me to sort of construct notes on the session, which can be helpful when you recall it at a later date. I also have my color coding options here, which allows me to color code an audio region or a track. So for instance, I can click here on this and color code that green. I can click on this, color code that red. And finally, we have our bounce shortcut, which gives us access to our bouncing options. So for instance, we can choose to bounce out our file as an AIFF file or maybe even a WAV file. We can also change the bit depth. We can change the sample rate. We can also choose to bounce out as either a split or interleaved file, and also whether or not to use dithering. Here on the bottom left, we have a few important windows which we can access. The first is my mixer, which contains all my channel strips for this session. This is probably the most important window of these 5 windows. We have the sample editor, which lets me do some very surgical editing that is typically not available in the Arrange window. The piano roll shows me all of the MIDI events that I've constructed within my session. The score window actually creates standardized notation of all of the MIDI events, which is a really cool function. And the hyper editor is a way for us to create and manipulate MIDI data. Over here on the center bottom, we have our transport bar, which has all of our standard features such as forward, rewind, stop, play, pause, and record. And we also have some cool recording modes such as cycle region, which allows us to loop a section of audio. And we also have punch in, which gives us the flexibility of re-recording only a portion of audio as opposed to re-recording an entire track. And lastly, up in the top left-hand corner here, we have our inspector panel, which allows us to tweak some of our MIDI settings, also our crossfade settings, and also whether or not we're in flex mode or not. So there you have it, a quick look at the Logic Pro interface. Thanks for watching.